We'll go ahead and move on from here into our picks and bans for championship week. Last week was kind of a rough week. I think I was so excited about getting these playoff picks and bans to you guys, trying to get them all right, that I overthunk a lot of them and ended up messing them up because of that. I really thought that they would ban the Orianna for Power of Evil, and they didn't, and that was the right pick. I really thought that they would ban the Volibear for Blabber. Say that 10 times fast. But they didn't. They let them have it. And so I'm going to not overthink things this week. If we have a champion that we know teams are going to prioritize, I'm just going to go ahead and pick it for him, even if I think it's going to get banned. It just feels so bad to overthink it and then get it wrong. I hit 30% last week. We're going to do better this week. Looking at last week, the top picks, only 3 champions at 100% pick and ban. It's Hecarim, Zeri, and Nautilus. So really, Zeri is the only one that stayed this high priority through the whole split. We had 80% of Ryze, Volibear, and Lee Sin. And then at 70% was Jinx, Tom, Viego, Victor, and Tryndamere. So that's the lowest we've seen Jinx at all season. Moving right on into the top lane. The top picks last week, 3 Tryndamere, 3 Gnar games, 2 Graves, 2 Aurelia, 2 Gragas. Sion, nowhere to be seen. Kind of crazy. The top lane, we've had so many unique picks. We've seen the Aurelias, we've seen some crazy stuff, the Lucians, the Fioras, and so really hard. I'm going to divide up the picks this week into 3 categories, being a lock, a toss-up, and a total guess. The locks this week, I think you have to choose these champions for these players. It's Gnar for Summit, it's Gnar for Licorice, and it's Tryndamere for Someday. I think that from what we've seen on the split, these champions are so high priority for their teams and for their players that you just have to pick them. In my toss-up category, I'm picking Gnar for Impact. He's picked it 2 of his last 4 games. EG's willing to play anything. They busted out the Sion first, but I'm just not sure of it. I'm picking Gnar for Impact. For Kumo, FlyQuest, I'm picking Tryndamere. I still think they prioritize it. They got it banned against them both games last week. I'm not sure if the other teams will continue to do that, but again, we're not overthinking it. I'm going with Tryndamere. I'm also going with Tryndamere for Fake God. He's actually played a different champion each of his last 6 games. One of those was Tryndamere, and so I'm going to go ahead and go with what's been the highest priority top laner for the second half of the split, and that's Tryndamere. For Huni, it's a toss-up between 2 champions. I think it's Graves, and I think it's Rumble. I'm going to pick Graves, I think. He could definitely go Rumble, but I don't think they'll go back to it. Such a niche pick that it's only going to work in some situations, and it's really likely to get banned just because teams don't want to deal with it. So I'm going to pick Graves for Huni. I'm also picking Graves for Revenge. He's played at 2 of his last 5 games. It's his most played on the split, and Revenge has struggled lately. Graves is a pretty strong, pretty safe laner, and so I think they'll give it to him. And then for Jenkins CLG, I'm giving him Camille. He's actually played a different champion each of his last 6 games. But Camille's his most played on the split. Really flexible, able to do a lot of things with your team comp, with your top laner on Camille. So that's why I'm picking him. And then in my total guess category, it's Bwipo, of course. You have no idea what this guy's going to play. He's busted out the Lucian twice now. He's busted out the Shyvana. I'm going to pick Tryndamere for him, just because it's been the highest priority for everyone. Kind of gives him a chance to carry, which it seems like they like to have Bwipo to carry through top lane. So we're going Tryndamere for Bwipo. Looking into the jungle, the top picks for last week, we had 6 Viego games, so he kind of shot to the top of the priority. 3 Lee Sin, 3 Hecarim. So Hecarim actually got through 3 times, which was more than I expected. The locks for the jungle, I think there's 3 of them. I think Santorin, Viego, he played it both times last week. I think he's only played 3 champions for the most part this split. It's been Viego, it's been Xin, and it's been Trundle. And I think of those 3, Viego by far has the most chance to pop off to get high scores, and so your picks and bans are going to be more useful. Same thing for Jose Deodo. Got to pick Viego for him. He's played it 3 in a row. And for Spica, TSM, Lee Sin. It's his go-to. He had a great game on it last week. The week before, they first picked it and let Hecarim through, so they clearly really value the Lee Sin for Spica. In the toss-up category, I'm going Lee Sin for Closer. It's his go-to. He didn't play it last week. The drafts just didn't fall that way, but I think he'll get back to it this week. For Blabber, like I said, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going Volibear. I still don't think people are going to let him get Hecarim. They very clearly prioritized it really highly for a lot of the split, so I'm going Volibear. I'm picking Hecarim for Pride Stalker and for River. I think both of them will take it if it's available. I know Dignitas actually did not. The Hecarim actually got through in both the Dignitas games last week. So it looks like they won't ban it. And then Golden Guardians will definitely first pick it. They'll definitely draft to play around it if they can. Picking Viego for Xerxes and for Contracts. He's been the most popular jungler last week and really the week before. Xerxes will play anything. He played the set jungle game that was horrible. But they first picked him the Viego last week. And then Contracts, I think it's the right kind of champion for him. I don't think any teams are going to let him get Hecarim. And I definitely think he's better on these carry-style junglers. So I'm giving Viego to Contracts. And then in the total guess category, I only have one. It's Inspired. He's actually picked 6 different champions each of his last 6 games. I'm picking Lee Sin for him. Just feels right. He's played Lee 2 of his last 7, so it's the only champion he's repeated over the last 7 games. So I'm going with Lee Sin for Inspired. Looking at the mid lane, this is what really killed me last week. I actually only got 1 out of 10, which is horrible. The top picks, we have 3 Ryze, 3 Victor, 3 Ahri, 2 Syndra, 2 TF, 2 Orianna, 2 Veigar. So really just spread across the board, really hard to predict. In the locks category, I'm going Orianna for Power of Evil. I'm not overthinking it. If he has the chance to play it, he's going to. Just give Orianna the Power of Evil. For Takui, I'm picking Syndra. He played it once each of the last 3 weeks. It's his comfort pick. For Takeover, I'm sticking with Ahri. He didn't play it last week, but he played it each of the 2 before, and it was his most played champion in Academy while he was there. So I think it's his comfort pick. I'm going Ahri for Takeover. In my toss-up category, I'm picking Ryze for Bjergsen. Really, he's kind of split between Ryze, Victor, Ahri, and Zilean. He played Ahri both times last week, but it seems like they're changing it up week by week, and I think they'll give him the strongest pick if it's available, and that's Ryze. For Jojo, I think it's a complete toss-up between Orianna and Ryze, but teams have been banning Ryze against him, and it seems like Ori has been the go-to when Ryze is banned, and it kind of fits the style of playing through bot lane, which they've been doing through Danny. So I'm going Orianna for Jojo. For Blaze Olive, I'm giving him Ryze. I think they'll prioritize it if it gets through unbanned. And then for Palafox, I'm going Twisted Fate. He's actually played it 2 of his last 4 games, and then it's actually been banned the other 2 games of the last 4. And so I think it might get banned just because teams don't want to deal with it, but I'm picking TF because it seems to be what they really want to play in the mid lane. In the total guess category, I've got 3. One is Abbedagge. I'm picking Victor for him. He's played Victor and Twisted Fate last week, but he's played a ton of things this split. And Victor he's played once each of the last 2 weeks, so because of that I'm going Victor. Fledge is also in this category. I'm also picking him Victor. He's played a different champion each of his last 7 games, but I think Victor just kind of feels right for Fudge. Kind of a control mage that can push and roam, have wave control, so I'm picking Victor for Fudge. And then I've also got Blue in this category for Dignitas. I'm going Corki. Blue's actually played a different champion each of his last 5, but Corki's is most played on the split. It's safe in matchups that I think they're going to have a tough time with. Corki's been his most played all year. That's why I'm going Corki for Blue. Looking at the 80 carry roll, top picks for last week, we had 8 Zeri games, 5 Jinx games, and 3 Kai'Sa games. And so kind of the priorities have switched around. We're not seeing really much of Felios. And then the Zeri has dropped in priority enough to finally make it through the bans for really the first time all split. Looking at the locks, I've got a few of them here. I think you have to pick Zeri for Hans Sama. They played it 2 of his last 3 games. They've prioritized it well. He scored really well on it. Picking Jinx for FBI, that feels obvious. He's played it so much this split. Picking Jinx for Berserker as well. They've played it 3 of their last 4. They first picked Kai'Sa last week, and then they lost to TSM. So I don't think they'll do that again. And then the other 3 games of their last 4, they first picked Jinx. And so I think you have to pick Jinx for Berserker. I'm also picking Zeri for both Danny and for Johnson. They've both played it 3 of their last 4 games. I think they're both going to prioritize it. I think there is a chance that EG just gets it banned away from them. But if it's up, then they'll pick it for him. So you have to pick Zeri, both for Danny and for Johnson. In my toss-up category, I've got Lost for Golden Guardians on Kai'Sa. He's played it 2 of his last 4 games. And the AP Kaisa is really strong. I've been playing it in my solo queue games lately, and it just feels kind of stupid once you hit 3 items. Like, I just feel dirty playing it. For Neo, I'm picking him Jinx. I think it's a toss-up between Jinx, Aphelios, and Caitlyn. I think he'll play Caitlyn if it doesn't get banned, but no one's going to let him play Caitlyn. And then between Aphelios and Jinx, he played Aphelios last week, but I think Jinx is just better, and I think they'll know that. I think they'll give him Jinx. Tactical, I've got as a toss-up between Jinx and Zeri. I'm going with Jinx just because I think it's a better pick for them, kind of the way they play. So I'm going Jinx for tactical. And then Luger, I'm going back to the Kaisa. He played Kaisa 2 times 2 weeks ago, but then last week he got it banned both games. I don't think it'll get banned this week, and so I'm thinking that CLG will pick Kaisa for Luger. And then in my total guess category, I only have one. It's Arrow. I'm giving him the Zeri. Arrow's actually played a different champion in each of his last 5 games, so I'm going with the most popular, the most high priority champ. He played Ashe last week, and it went really poorly. He got crushed in lane. He's really been struggling, so I feel like they'll give him something that's pretty safe and pretty strong. And then finally, looking at support, last week we had 9 Nautilus games, so 9 out of 10. And then 3 Alistar, 2 Tahm Kench, and 2 Leona. And so I'm going to make this really simple. I did go through these the same way as I did the others, kind of analyzed who I think each team's going to prioritize. And for 9 out of 10, I figured out Nautilus. And so I think you actually have to pick Nautilus for everyone except for Shen Yi for TSM. And I doubt many of you are really starting Shen Yi.